You know them even though they don't like to usually make themselves known. I'm talking about those quiet, behind-the-scenes people that we all have had in our lives. And maybe you're one of those people. So keep watching because we're going to meet one today in this second chapter of Esther. Hi everybody. Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind clicking subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. And at the end, please like and share this video. Now here comes today's lesson. We're back, and this lesson is on Esther chapter 2. In our last lesson, Esther chapter 1, we learned about a great banquet. In fact, there were 3 of them. And the story ended with Queen Vashti being removed from the throne. And so a door was opened. And now we're going to learn the new queen who walks through it. And I think we all know her name, Esther. And so we're going to pick it up here in chapter 2. But if you happen to miss that first lesson, you can check it out right here to catch up. And so please open your Bibles to Esther chapter 2. And we're going to meet 2 new characters this week. Of course, we're going to meet Esther, and her Hebrew name is Hadassah, and it means myrtle, which is a pleasant scent. And we're also going to meet her cousin Mordecai, and his name is interesting because it's a Hebrew name but with Persian influences. And he was named after a god, the god of Marduk, is a Babylonian god. And so we'll see the influence that Mordecai has on his cousin Esther, and we're going to learn about it right now. We're going to start in Esther 2, 5 through 7. Now there was in the citadel of Susa, so that's the capital of Persia, a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin named Mordecai, son of Jair, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Kish, who had been carried into exile from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, among those taken captive with Jehoiakim, king of Judah. And so I'll just stop here and explain and remind you that this story of Esther is taking place after the Babylonian exile. So the Jews were brought to Babylon. Then Babylon was conquered by Persia, and under King Cyrus, the Persian king, they were allowed to go back to Jerusalem, but some remained. Some remained in Persia, and Mordecai and Esther are 2 of them. And so there are many Jews living in Persia. And so Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up because she had neither mother nor father. This young woman, who was also known as Esther, that's her Persian name, had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. And so right away we learn a little bit about their relationship, that Esther was an orphan. Mordecai stepped in to raise her, and we'll see him counseling her throughout this book. Again, as I introduced, he's kind of the behind-the-scenes guy, pouring his wisdom and love and care into Esther. And so we'll see how the story unfolds. And so here's a very important thing right off the bat that he advised her. It comes in Esther 2, 10 through 11. Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background, that of being Jewish, because Mordecai had forbidden her to do so. Every day he walked back and forth near the courtyard of the harem to find out how Esther was and what was happening to her. Now we have to remember that these young virgins were brought against their will. They didn't voluntarily go to Susa. Once this queen seat was vacated by Vashti, that we learned in chapter 1, he had all the virgins kind of gathered up and brought to Susa so he could choose which one he liked the best. And so she is keeping her identity a secret based on Mordecai's advice. And so otherwise it would have been an immediate denial because of their formerly being exiles and foreigners in this land. And so we see what happens to Esther early on. She is impressing people right from the beginning. And we see this in verse 2, 8 through 9. When the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many young women were brought to the citadel of Susa and put under the care of Haggai. Esther was also taken to the king's palace and entrusted to Hagar, who had charge of the harem. So he was one of the king's advisors who was watching over the harem of women. And it says in verse 9 that she pleased him and won his favor. Immediately, he provided her with beauty treatments and special food. He assigned her 7 female attendants selected from the king's palace and moved her and her attendants into the best place of the harem. So immediately, Esther is making an impression on the king's advisor, Haggai. And then when it came to be her turn, and so this went on for months and months, all the special preparation with the beauty treatments, and then it was Esther's time to go meet the king. And it says in verse 2:15, when the turn came for Esther, the young woman Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle Abihail, to go to the king, she asked for nothing other than what Haggai, the king's eunuch who is in charge of the harem, suggested. And Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. Everyone who saw her. There's something about Esther. What is it about Esther? We know she was beautiful, but there was something about her. It's probably her humility, her ability to accept or willingness to accept advice from Mordecai. Was it her poise? Was it her beauty? We don't know. There was something intangible about her. And she not only pleased and won favor of everyone around her, guess who she pleased the most? In Esther 2:16 through 17, we find out she was taken to King Xerxes in the royal residence in the 10th month, the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Now the king was attracted to Esther more than any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any of the other virgins. So he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti's. I feel so bad for Vashti. She keeps coming up, and it's not in a good way. It's like she is out. Esther is now in, and of course, what do? They have a huge banquet. This one's called Esther's banquet. We learn in verse 2:18. And now they're celebrating again, as the king likes to do. But there's one very important section and part of the story right here at the very end of chapter 2 that we cannot forget. And we need to remember this. It's Mordecai uncovers a plot to kill the king. So he is at the king's gate. He hears 2 of the king's advisors plotting to kill him, and he reports it to Esther. Esther reports it to the king. And when the report was investigated and found to be true, the two officials were impaled on poles. All this was recorded in the book of Annals in the presence of the king. That's Esther 2:23. This book is very important. And so this is planting a seed that we're going to see later of how it blooms and when it blooms. And again, God's hand is all over this story. But this recording in this book of Mordecai's, what he did to save the king, is very, very important. And so this chapter, too, really highlights the importance of the behind-the-scenes people. We may not even see them. I'm sure the king didn't know Mordecai, or the advisor to the king didn't know Mordecai was behind the scenes, coaching Esther, encouraging Esther. And I know we all have those people in our lives. And so my challenge this week is to pray about who are those people or that person in your life, the behind the scenes Mordecai, who's helped you on your way, and maybe reach out and thank them. A simple act of gratitude. So that is our lesson for this week. Next week, we are moving on to Esther chapter 3. It's getting exciting, and we are going to meet a new character, and his name is Haman. We're not going to like him, but he's coming next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.